Hey everybody, Dirili here. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Hakuoki Kyoto Wins. Today we're starting on Hajime Saito's route, my second favorite guy behind Chikage Kazuma. Hope y'all are ready for this. I know a lot of people love him as much as I do. So yeah, as usual, we're gonna be skipping through previously read dialogue, and I'll show you the choices to make along the way. So starting out here, we have to attempt to explain my situation. And Saito likes straightforwardness, so a lot of our decisions going for him are just going to be being honest. And decide to tell them why I'd come to Kyoto, which is the important thing. And here, look, for the first time, talk to someone, the one choice that hasn't been used. Perhaps there would be someone in the inner courtyard to whom I could speak, I thought. I didn't want to be spotted by the soldiers, so I hid for a moment and scanned the area. Oh, good. Things were looking up. The only people in the courtyard were Okita and Saito. Yeah, but you're not supposed to be out, so wouldn't they be mad too? Good morning, Okita. Good morning, Saito. They showed no sign of surprise at my approach, and turned lazily to greet me.
Good morning, Chizuru. Thinking hard on something, are we?
How did you guess?
We didn't have to. You just told us. At any rate, if you have something to say, then out with it.
Well, what's the rush? Let me enjoy the weather and a nice conversation with you. I didn't want to impose or complain, but they had asked. I was hoping I could go look for my father soon.
That's not possible. We don't have enough men to spare to keep an eye on you.
He hadn't exactly left any room for argument. Is there really nothing you can do? It's not like I want to go very far. Just walking around the city is enough.
Well, I suppose we might be able to let you tag along when we go on our rounds.
Your rounds? I must have worn a confused expression, because Okita's eyes narrowed and he proceeded to warn me.
Well, this isn't just a stroll. While you're with us, you're in danger. If we make mistakes, our men die. If you don't want to get cut open by some angry Ronin, you need to be ready to fight back.
Well, I do know a little swordsmanship. I should be able to protect myself a little. Internally, though, I was frightened by the rounds. The last thing I wanted to see was another person die. I had seen enough of that to last a lifetime. Oh, and you're just getting started, girl. I had to remind myself that fear couldn't rule me. No matter what, I had to find my father. Kyoto may be a dangerous place, but being paralyzed by fear would prevent me from ever finding him.
In that case, allow me to test you. Let me see if that blade of yours is merely for show.
What?
I will hold back, but you need not. Come at me with your most powerful strike.
But...
Is something wrong, Yukimura? Draw your blade unless it is merely decoration.
Oh, no, of course it's not. And I have taken lessons, I'm not lying. But I can't. I can't attack you.
Like you'd be able to lay a finger on him.
If my hand were to slip and I cut or stab you, not only would you be injured, but you could die.
Just the looks on their faces. Like, seriously? She really thinks that?
Excuse me, you don't have to laugh.
Oh, that you could kill Saito? That's not funny? Oh man, this is too good.
Of course I hadn't thought I could beat one of the captains of the Shinsengumi, but still, there's still a chance of someone getting hurt. If it's to help someone or protect myself, I wouldn't think twice to draw my Kodachi. But right now, I just can't get myself to do it. That doesn't sound like the right choice for Saito, but that's what the guide says. I can't just draw my sword on someone if there's even a small chance it could hurt them. He likes me being pure and innocent, is that what it is?
I understand where you're coming from, but if you prove your worth to me, it will help you. If you can prove not to be a hindrance, we will try and take you out, which will help your search. If you are so concerned for my safety, then use your scabbard or the back of your blade.
I looked down at my sword. Even with the scabbard or the back of the blade, a misplaced strike could break bones. However, this was the opportunity I waited for. I don't want to miss this chance. I straightened up and looked straight into Saito's cold, calm eyes. Let's go. I settled into a fighting position. Saito cocked his head slightly to one side and let out a small noise I took to be a laugh. His stance stayed defensive, no sign of fear despite the fact that I was clearly ready to attack. Did he intend to leave his sword sheathed? I stopped the thought as it entered my mind, His words were to be trusted. "Here I come." As I stepped forward, I let out a yell and lunged. The backside of my blade collided with the shoulder of a defenseless Saito. Or so I thought. As if. And now we're like, what? What happened? Huh? In the blink of an eye, his face was only inches from mine, and I could feel the cold steel of his blade. This was the skill of a Shinsengumi captain. My body froze, and the sweat dripped down my neck.
Your master would be proud. Your blade was not clouded. You can see into the heart of one's swordsmanship. You are blessed with a good teacher.
He turned without another word, sheathed his sword, and began to walk away. I then noticed how wildly my heart was beating. Yeah, that would be scary as hell. What was that?
Well, this is a pretty nice little blade. It looks old, though.
Huh? I looked over at Okita to see him holding my kodachi. I looked down at my hand where I'd expected the sword to be. It was empty. I'm sorry. Thank you for picking up my sword. He nodded and tossed the sword to me. I reached for it, but there was almost no strength left in my hands, and I nearly dropped it. The blow of Saito's sword on my own hand had left my hands numb. That strength seemed almost inhuman.
He alright. Give you a bit of a start, didn't he? Not surprising. Saito's a real EI master.
Yes, I suppose I'm okay. But what's EIE? I felt like a bit of a fool asking, but it seemed they thought it was a perfectly legitimate question.
A technique where one draws the sword from its scabbard and strikes the enemy all at once. You see how the blade points up?
Yes. You wear your katana just like my kodachi then?
That's right. Older katana were once hung facing blade down, but modern ones are worn at the waist, blade up. Normally, one waits until the blade is drawn, then flips the blade over and faces their opponent.
And he could have easily taken my head with that blade. Had we faced an actual battle, I would have been dead sooner than I could prepare myself.
In EIE, the sword is drawn with one hand. Some think it diminishes the power of your swing.
That's not a problem Saito has. It seems like he could easily finish an opponent with a single blow.
Yeah, he's a real blood sport. He'd have finished you off right after he knocked the sword out of your hand.
The only reason I survived that encounter was because Saito had never intended to kill me. A thought that made me shiver. That's EIE then. And from a true master of the art. It left me speechless, trembling from its power. A feeling of horror began to creep and coil itself around my heart. The outside appearance of the Shinsengumi did not reflect their deadliness. It mesmerized me to witness men who could be gentle, yet killers.
Don't bury yourself. You have room to improve, but you have enough that we might take you along.
Really? I looked from Saito to Okita. He gave me a smile and brought his hands together in polite applause.
Well, look at that. Hajime himself gave you a pass. Well, that's pretty amazing, you know.
Then, that means you can take me with you?
Well, if the man who told you to stay here approves it, then yeah, you're good to go with us.
Right. I had a feeling he was going to say something similar, so I simply nodded in agreement.
You're just going to have to wait till Hijikata gets back from Osaka. Sorry.
Oh, you don't need to apologize, Saito. It's alright. I'm just bored out of my mind. Saito looked at me for a beat, then turned away. I thought perhaps he looked to me with pity.
We'll ask the commander for permission to take you on patrol. So, you think you can wait just a bit longer? If you want, we'll keep you company.
I would love that. Really? Okita smirked, and I couldn't tell if he was kidding or meant it.
Probably a little of both.
I turned to look up at the sky, watching the white clouds gently drift apart. Perhaps a shy omen. At least I had made some progress in my search, I told myself, however little. The wind had pushed the clouds off to Kyoto, and the brilliant blue they had hidden sparkled above. And some skipping. Here it's time to quietly return to my room again. And this time go to Fushimi. And this time, since we're not going after him, we have to say, "Are you sure? I would appreciate it." Are you sure? I would appreciate some help.
I wouldn't want to trouble you with my presence, but if you'll let me, I'd love to help you out.
It wouldn't trouble me at all. It would be great for you to help me. Thank you so much.
I'm Umetaro Saitani. You can call me Saitani, or Ume, or whatever you'd like.
Whatever I'd like? Sweet buns. Okay, nice to meet you, Saitani. This time remain in the compound? Why me? Yamazaki, you should go. I'll sacrifice myself here for no real good reason. And we're heading off to Ikeda Inn. And this time, follow Saito, hooray! I watched Harada and his men as they ran around toward the back of the inn, and turned to Saito. Can I go with you, Saito? He glanced back at me, then quickly turned away.
Stay behind me. If I must be impeded by your presence, then watch out for my sword.
He was even colder than usual, and I was suddenly aware of just how much of a burden I was. I'm sorry. Perhaps it would be best for me to stay put and be quiet, so as to not cause anyone further trouble.
I don't care to see you die, but it's not my job to protect you.
He sounded annoyed, but it didn't seem like it was with me. He looked toward the inn, his eyes narrowed.
We're going in. Men, follow me.
Then we charged into Ikeda Inn. Ah! The warm, coppery stench of blood hit me like a fist to the stomach. With a single blow, Saito dispatched a man near the door, his pace barely slowing.
You're here! Excellent! We could use the backup.
Kondo gave a grin as he spoke, then turned to split a Ronin with his sword. With his free hand, he gestured at us to stay back.
I'm fine. You should go head upstairs to see Soji. Hey, Saito! Looks like you're out of luck, pal. Don't think I left any for you.
Oh, I'm sure he'll find some.
I'll let it slide this time.
Yeah, I think he's always taking more than his share anyway. Nagakura came out of the back, and he hung his exposed sword out and left in his usual way. Maybe he had one intense battle. There was blood all over his uniform, and it seemed like his left hand was dripping with blood too. You're hurt!
Did this come as a surprise? This is a sword fight. You think this is bad, you should see Heisuke.
That's not funny. Nagakura grinned at me as Saito began barking orders to his men.
Don't let any of them escape. We needn't hold back. Kill any who resist.
Saito let our injured evacuate. His voice is steel, and the grimace on his face betrayed his emotions. Oh. That was when I finally understood. It wasn't anger I saw in him, it was concern. He was worried for the men of the Shinsengumi. The frustration of not being able to fight with them, of not being at their side. That was why he'd been in such a hurry.
Can you treat the injured? You are the daughter of a doctor, after all.
Yes, I can. The words were out of my mouth before I realized they probably needed something of a disclaimer. Well, I mean, I can do first aid.
That's plenty, thanks.
To me, it seemed only natural to care about one's friends, but I'd always seen Saito as distant. Well, now you're learning how to read him. He hadn't struck me as the sort to care for anyone, so I never even guessed that could have been the source of his frustration. The truth was, he wasn't nearly as cold as I thought. As I watched him dive into battle, his sword a light of hope for his comrades in arms, I wondered how I could have ever thought so. 'Cause you weren't paying close attention and skipping time? This time went to come? To Hamaguri Gate, everyone! And of course this time I'm going to trust Saito, and not ruin his moment. Saito was also well aware of his duties, and was not the sort of man to allow emotion to compromise his decisions, as shown by his ordering his men to stand down after being grievously insulted. I didn't know what it was, but he had a plan. He must have somehow sensed my decision, because for a moment his eyes flicked to me, and he smiled. Yep, I get the idea.
I have no interest in escalating the situation. Our goals are the same. However, we cannot overlook any further insults. If you persist, then Aizu Domain and the Shinsengumi will have no choice but to take action.
The tall man from the Satsuma nodded deeply.
It is true, our speech and conduct are unbecoming. My apologies on behalf of the Satsuma Domain.
Saito returned the man's nod and slid his sword back into its scabbard. The Satsuma men seemed displeased at how things turned out, but whoever the tall man was, none of them dared to speak out against him.
Would you?
Now I understood what Saito had intended to do. By forcing the Satsuma to apologize, he had allowed the Aizu to save face. By directly confronting the issue, he had been able to avoid any bloodshed. Because the Satsuma man understood his intentions, he apologized. Regardless, I couldn't help but sigh, relieved that we avoided another pointless fight. And at this point we get a little bit of a different summary. Several civilian houses were burned during the rebellion. Kyoto needed to be rebuilt, but it looked as if the process would take a while. I did my best to look for my father while we were out on patrol, but try as I might, I couldn't find even a hint of his whereabouts. September 1864. Saito and his men had this particular shift, so I joined them. The heat in the city was almost unbearable, as if we were inside an oven. There was a group of people sitting listlessly at the side of the road. I stopped. They'd probably lost their homes in the fire. Saito? He turned around and looked at me placidly.
Is something the matter? Are you tired from walking?
Oh no, nothing like that. I was just, hoping to talk to those people. Would that be okay? They might know something about my father. He frowned, just slightly. Is that not okay?
No, you can go. We have very little time to spare, however. You must be quick.
Thank you. I jogged over toward the small crowd of people who looked up as I approached. Excuse me, but I'm looking for someone. He's bald and... I talked to several different people, but none of them knew anything about my father. Was he even still in Kyoto? Could he have gotten involved in the Hamagata Rebellion and lost his life? No, that wasn't possible. He had to be alive. I wiped sweat from my face and desperately tried to convince myself that it was true. Saito was walking in front of me when he suddenly turned around and spoke.
Are you okay? You seem particularly hot.
Well, you've noticed. Oh yes, I'm fine. I didn't want him to worry, so I smiled brightly.
Very well. If you feel ill, inform me immediately. I cannot afford for you to be incapacitated.
Of course, thank you. I knew the only reason he was being so attentive was because Hijikata gave him orders to take care of me, but it was still nice that he was making sure I was okay. What about you? Aren't you hot? You're wearing black and you've got a jacket on.
The heat is unpleasant, but tolerable. What concerns me is...
Is what? He frowned almost imperceptibly and laid a hand on his sword.
Kyoto's summer is very humid. If I'm not careful, my sword will begin to rust. That is my only concern. I hope autumn arrives soon.
He was more worried about his sword than himself. It must be really important to you.
The sword is the soul of the warrior.
As he spoke, Saito pulled up short and turned to look at the building in front of which we stood. Ah yes, I thought it was, but I wasn't sure. This is a Zuisoroku scene. It appeared to be a sword shop. He was staring at the sword on display, his gaze almost hungry. It was like watching a child who had just discovered a new toy he couldn't resist. Saito? He twitched a little in surprise and looked at me.
I apologize. We still have a good deal of ground to cover. If we do not hurry, we'll be late.
He composed himself and walked back toward the rest of his men. He looked really excited. Was that a nice sword? He drew himself up a little as he began to speak.
It was a Bizen Osafune, Kanamitsu. They say that the best swords are made in Bizen. If you buy a Bizen, see that it's Osafune. There are many other Bizen smiths, however. They say that most of the swords in action today are in fact Bizen blades.
Oh. He continued to talk about swords for some time. To be honest, I never saw him so talkative before. It seemed a little strange that swords brought him out of his shell, but it was nice.
Is something the matter? I don't recall saying something amusing. Please don't tell me I've said something wrong.
Oh no, not at all.
Then may I ask, why are you laughing?
What was I going to say? don't think I was laughing. I think I was probably just smiling. Happily. I think I understand. I don't really know much about swords, but I think I do kind of understand how you feel about them. I laid one hand on my kodachi as I spoke. I cherish my sword, too. Saito's mouth twitched into a wry, genuine smile.
Ah, so you find yourself drawn to it as well. Then I have no doubt it will be there for you when you need it most.
His tone was as flat as ever, but there was a look in his eyes that I'd never seen before. It was different from when he spoke in the meetings or issued orders to his men. I could see just how much he cared about his sword.
In any event, we must increase our pace. We have taken longer than I anticipated.
You're right. I nodded, but Saito suddenly stopped. I looked over and his face seemed strained.
About my delay at the sword merchant.
Don't worry, I won't tell Hijikata what happened. He seemed to relax.
I see. That was very childish of me.
So cute when he blushes.
I cannot believe I prioritized my own interest over my duty.
I'm sure you're not the first captain to ever be distracted momentarily. He hunched his shoulders and walked more quickly. Watching him made me think of how he looked when he stopped in front of the shop earlier. He'd been so excited, almost like a child. It made me smile.
What are you smiling for?
Oh, nothing. Nothing important. Just remembering something.
I suppose I needn't ask what you were remembering. No doubt you are laughing for me neglecting my orders in favor of a sword on display.
Oh, don't be so derogatory toward yourself. No, I wasn't laughing at you.
There's no need to disassemble. I can hardly blame you for finding my behavior laughable. Though it may not be apparent, I regret my actions. I swear, I will not make the same mistake again.
He looked away from me with an attitude that could only be described as sulking. Straighten it out, Chizuru, don't let it go with that. It wasn't that I meant to mock him. There had just been something about his childlike glee that was amusing and cute in a way. But no doubt telling him that would have only upset him more. Just say, it made me happy to see him happy like that.
Come along. Hijikata will likely be waiting for our report.
Oh, right. Saito was a quiet, taciturn man, which many people interpreted as a show of coldness, but when swords were the subject of conversation, he lit up. And he pouted when I mentioned this. It was a side of him I never guessed at, and something about seeing it cheered me up. Oh, it's always good learning new things about your sweetie. Now we're heading into Chapter 3, where I must immediately return to my room. And then this time go to the inner courtyard. Winds chilled the courtyard. The candle flickered. The air was still, and the whole place was silent. It was hard to believe the chaos of the common room was only moments ago. Saito stood in a daze, gathering thoughts as he watched the stars shiver in the distance.
Why don't you go inside? The night is very cold.
You can warm me up. I'm fine. I'm not cold. Saito stared at me. His expression was blank, and he seemed to be calculating, but alas, he simply looked back to the sky.
For those who live by the sword, their hands define life itself. To lose them, I suppose taking one's own life makes sense.
I saw the white air of Saito's breath as he muttered to himself.
I didn't notice how bad it was for him. I guess the Sanin we knew was only a fragment of who he truly was.
Saito wasn't the best at expressing how he felt, but it was clear his words were tinged with pain. I could sense he was deeply remorseful for not being able to stop Sanin. What's going to happen to him? Between us followed a period of silence, and I was mad at myself for asking such a question. There was no way for Saito to know the answer. Soon, though, he quietly responded, and it was no surprise to see him becoming disengaged.
It can't become common knowledge that the colonel of the Shinsengumi has gone mad. Better that he dies.
What? His voice cracked, but Saito scarcely blinked. Could you live with that, Saito? If you were to be given orders to assist with Sanin's beheading.
With my assistance, Sanin can be sent to the next life without much suffering. If I am called to do it, then I will kill whom I must. Simple as that.
A chill grazed up my spine, but not from the night air. I couldn't believe it. Is this what it takes to be a Shinsengumi warrior? He could probably kill me at any moment if it were called upon him, and I realized just how expendable I was.
I prefer not to kill my comrades if possible. It is difficult to imagine something more painful.
The night I'd met Saito, I watched him kill a man whom he may have known without blinking. Or maybe that's how it looked to me. I thought him cold at the time, but I realize now how much pain he must have been in. There's no way it wouldn't be painful, moving together with hope of sharing a vision. Just then, I sensed someone approaching us. Who dare interrupt our romantic tryst? I gasped and turned around.
Hey, the common room has been pretty noisy. Something going on?
None of your business.
Ah, I see you're still up.
Well, how are people supposed to sleep with all this commotion going on? So, what happened? I was trying to ask others, but everyone gave me the same half-assed answer.
Maybe you're not asking nicely enough. Have you tried using the magic word? Kodo made sure to tell us to keep Ito and his gang from finding out what happened tonight. How are we supposed to play it off? Panicked, I looked at Saito.
I can't tell you right now.
What? Usually he's good at coming up with excuses on the fly.
Is that so? Despite me being a captain?
Thing is, I also haven't fully grasped what's going on. If I were to tell you something that later turned out to be incorrect, it would cause an unnecessary confusion. I'm sure by tomorrow the chief and commander will call everyone to explain. Wait until then.
Huh, I see.
Miki shrugged at his answer and shuffled off without saying another word. Was that all right? Do you think Miki was satisfied with that?
Well, he's not a dimwit. He is Ito's little brother after all.
And we have yet to see what he's capable of till the second game. He's involved in a couple people's routes, apparently. I thought so.
But then again, I don't see him as the type to just cause an unnecessary scene either. You shouldn't let your guard down in front of him, but no need to be too cautious either.
Saito's reserved nature made it difficult for people to observe him, but he used this to his advantage and seemed to be astute in watching others.
All we could do is pray that Sonnen pulls through.
You're right. Above us sang the wind of the gentle night, its song catching the ears of the star-filled sky. And we're going to stop the video there. It might be a little bit short, but it's really, really hot down here, and I need to end this. So yeah, probably next two videos going to have a couple of Zuisoroku scenes in them, and of course plenty of skipping still. So hope to see you there or in some of my other videos, and I'd be so grateful for any likes, comments, subscriptions, or shares with your friends to show some support. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you all health, happiness, and safety. Dirili signing out. Bye bye everybody.